The immense chamber of the Galactic Council falls silent as Admiral James Fletcher steps forward. The space is vast beyond human imagination, with tiered seating rising hundreds of meters upward in a perfect circle. Thousands of alien representatives from across the Milky Way observe from their designated platforms, their bodies ranging from humanoid to utterly bizarre forms that defy Earth biology. Massive holographic displays float throughout the chamber, projecting the faces of important delegates for all to see. Fletcher's footsteps echo across the polished floor of the central platform. He stands tall in his formal Earth Alliance uniform, the blue and silver gleaming under the chamber's ambient light. Behind him, two human diplomats follow at a respectful distance, Dr. Elaine Turner, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, and Marcus Reed, the political attaché. Their faces remain impassive, but their eyes constantly scan the room, noting reactions, cataloging threats. Humans of Earth. Booms a voice that seems to emanate from everywhere at once. The source is Arch-Sovereign Vex, the ancient crystalline being who has ruled the Council for millennia. His translucent body pulses with internal light as he speaks, towering over the human delegation from his elevated central position. You stand accused of illegal technological advancement, unauthorized neural weapons development, and destabilizing the balance of power in 3 sectors. The accusation hangs in the air. Fletcher remains composed despite the weight of 4,000 civilizations judging him. The Council had expected fear, perhaps the trademark human anger. Instead, they witness only calm resolve. These accusations are baseless, Fletcher responds, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. Earth has adhered to all treaties signed since first contact. A cacophony of translated protests erupts from the assembled representatives. Beings of all forms gesture with appendages, tentacles, and energy fields. The Draith ambassador, a massive gastropod with luminescent appendages, slides forward on a trail of bioluminescent slime. "We have evidence," the Draith announces, its speech translated into perfect English by the chamber's systems. With a wave of its upper tentacles, recordings begin to play on the central displays. They show human ships traversing restricted nebulae, apparent weapons tests in abandoned systems, and unauthorized mining operations in protected zones. Fletcher watches impassively, his eyes briefly meeting Turner's. Behind him, Dr. Turner notices subtle patterns in the Council's reactions, familiar patterns she's studied for years. Something doesn't align with their published diplomatic protocols. There's coordination happening beneath the surface. "This evidence is fabricated," Fletcher declares, his voice cutting through the growing noise. "And we can prove it." The chamber erupts again, this time in outrage. Voices overlap in a dozen translation channels. From the upper tiers, representatives of the militant hegemony species pound their armored fists against the railings, their battle crests fully extended. Arch-Sovereign Vex raises his crystalline appendages, and silence falls immediately. The display of control is impressive and terrifying. The Council has deliberated for 7 cycles. Vex's voice resonates through the chamber. The decision is made. His crystalline body glows more intensely as he speaks, colors shifting from blue to deep purple. "Humanity has advanced too quickly, developed too unpredictably. You represent an existential threat to galactic stability." The central platform beneath Fletcher's feet illuminates with a galactic map, Earth and its colonies highlighted in pulsing red. By unanimous decree, the Galactic Council hereby declares war on humanity. The words echo throughout the chamber, followed by a moment of profound silence. Many expected protests, pleas for mercy, perhaps even threats from the humans. Instead, Fletcher simply nods slightly as if receiving expected news. His communication device vibrates subtly against his wrist. A message from Earth Command flashes across his retinal display. Authorization granted. As the Council's security forces, biomechanical constructs twice the height of a human, move to detain the human delegation, Fletcher steps forward rather than back. "In that case," he says calmly, "you should know that we anticipated this outcome." The security constructs pause, their programming momentarily confused by the unexpected response. Fletcher raises his hand, revealing what appears to be a simple diplomatic seal emblazoned with Earth's unified emblem. "For 3 decades, we've been gathering intelligence on your civilizations, your technologies, your weaknesses," he states, his voice level. "We knew this day would come." Murmurs ripple through the chamber. Some representatives lean forward in their seats, Others begin urgent communications with their homeworlds. You believe you're declaring war on a single planet? Fletcher continues. A newcomer species barely worth your notice. But humanity isn't just on Earth anymore. The central display suddenly shifts, overridden by an external signal. It shows human outposts, bases, and installations spread throughout the galaxy, places the Council never detected, or had dismissed as abandoned alien ruins. We've been preparing since first contact, Fletcher states as guards surround him. And you've just activated our contingency plan. Throughout the chamber, hidden devices activate, embedded in gifts presented to Council members over decades of diplomatic relations. They instantly block all outgoing communications from the Council chamber, isolating the governing body from their military forces. The war has indeed begun, Fletcher announces as Vex's crystalline form trembles with rage. But not the one you intended. As Fletcher and his team are seized by the security constructs, Dr. Turner whispers to Marcus, "Countdown initiated. The table's protocol is now active." Across the galaxy, sleeper cells of human operatives receive a single encrypted message. Judgment Day has arrived. Execute Phase 1. Back in the chamber, Fletcher locks eyes with Arch-Sovereign Vex one final time before being escorted away. "You should have studied Earth's history more carefully," he says, loud enough for the nearest representatives to hear. "We've faced extinction-level threats before. It's made us creative." As the human delegation is removed from the chamber, panic begins to spread among the Council members. Reports of communications failures cascade throughout the chamber. Military commanders cannot be reached. Defensive systems report anomalies. Vex, feeling control slipping away, bellows for order. "Deploy the fleets. Commence the invasion of human space immediately." But across the galaxy, the carefully orchestrated attack has already begun to falter. Ships emerge from hyperspace at incorrect coordinates. Targeting systems malfunction. And on countless worlds, human agents embedded deep within Council infrastructure begin their carefully planned sabotage. The Council believed they were dealing with a simple, isolated species. They expected submission or futile resistance. What they failed to understand was that humanity had been playing a much longer game, one that began the moment they realized they weren't alone in the universe. In a secure chamber deep beneath Earth's surface, President Maya Okonkwo receives the encrypted confirmation of the Council's declaration. Around her, the Joint Chiefs of Earth's combined military forces await her command. "They've made their choice," she says solemnly. "Activate the Tables Protocol. All phases," the most senior admiral nods. "And the Council delegation currently on Earth? Treat them with respect and full diplomatic courtesy," Okonkwo replies. "They're about to discover what it means when humanity turns the tables." As the Tables Protocol activates across human space, the war that the Council so confidently declared begins to unfold in ways none of them could have anticipated. The hunters would soon discover they had cornered a prey far more dangerous than they ever imagined. The first phase of humanity's response had begun. The first wave of the Council's attack comes swiftly and without mercy. Massive warships emerge from hyperspace around Earth and its colonies, their sleek hulls gleaming against the backdrop of space. Nearly 10,000 vessels, representing the combined might of 4,000 civilizations, darken the skies across human space. Billions watch in horror as the mightiest armada ever assembled takes position around their worlds. On the mining colony of Titan, Director Marcus Reed stands before the massive viewport in the command center. Saturn's rings stretch across the starfield behind him, partially obscured by the silhouettes of Council warships. His face remains impassive as he studies the tactical displays, where red dots representing evacuation ships launch from the surface and accelerate away from the moon. "We're abandoning 17 years of work," his operations chief protests, gesturing at the mining complex that stretches across Titan's methane seas. "Everything we've built." "No," Reed corrects her, his eyes never leaving the display. "We're executing 17 years of planning." He taps a command into his wrist unit. Throughout the facility, hidden systems activate. Data cores wipe themselves. Machinery reconfigures. What appears to be standard mining equipment begins to transform. "The evacuation ships are clear," a technician reports. Reed nods. "Then it's time we welcomed our visitors properly." As Council forces descend toward Titan's surface, expecting to secure valuable human technology and resources, They find only empty facilities and automated defenses that exact a surprising toll on their landing parties. What should have been a simple occupation turns into a costly engagement. The pattern repeats across human space. The Council's overwhelming force encounters resistance that seems disproportionately effective. Critical technologies, key personnel, and strategic resources have vanished. What remains are elaborate decoys and defensive systems specifically calibrated to target Council vulnerabilities. In the Aldebaran sector, Council Commander Grell surveys the captured Earth research station with growing unease. The reptilian officer's scales shift color with his irritation as he stalks through empty laboratories. Where are the weapons? He demands of his subordinates. The classified research? The personnel? His lieutenant, a multi-limbed Taurian with compound eyes that reflect the station's emergency lighting, reports. The humans appear to have evacuated weeks ago, Commander. They've left behind only basic infrastructure. Impossible, Grell snarls, his tail lashing behind him. Our intelligence indicated no warning of our attack. The declaration was made in absolute secrecy, yet the evidence surrounds them. Dormitories cleared out. Research data scrubbed. Manufacturing facilities emptied of everything valuable. Even the station's reactor has been reconfigured to operate on minimal power, just enough to maintain life support. But not enough to power weapons or defenses. It's as if they knew, the Taurian observes. Grell's communicator activates with an encrypted channel from High Command. Status report. The station is secured, Grell replies, but empty of strategic value. There's a pause on the other end. This is the third such report we've received in the last hour. On a secure channel deep within Council space, Arch-Sovereign Vex receives increasingly disturbing reports from across the galaxy. Human resistance is scattered but surprisingly effective. Their ships, while outnumbered, employ unpredictable tactics, appearing from nowhere to strike critical targets before disappearing again. More concerning are reports that key Council military databases have been compromised, with targeting data and fleet movements apparently known to human forces before they're executed. How is this possible? Vex demands of his war council. They are primitives. Their civilization is barely 4,000 years old. The head of Council intelligence, a being composed of floating luminescent particles contained within a force field, responds with evident discomfort. We may have underestimated their capacity for deception. Sovereign, explain, Vex commands, his crystalline structure pulsing with angry energy. The humans have been placing operatives throughout Council space for decades, disguised, genetically modified to pass as members of allied species. They've been gathering intelligence, inserting backdoors into our systems. The implications sink in. You're saying they anticipated this war? Prepared for it? Evidence suggests they've been preparing since first contact. Sovereign. In the secret human base beneath Europa's ice, General Diana Powell reviews incoming data on the massive holographic display dominating the command center. Around her, military personnel from Earth and its colonies coordinate resistance efforts. The base, built over 15 years under the guise of a scientific research station, now serves as humanity's primary military headquarters, completely hidden from Council detection. The Council believes they're winning, she tells her staff, studying the movement of enemy fleets. Their forces have occupied our surface installations, captured our defense platforms, and seized our critical resources. She smiles thinly. Let's maintain that illusion while Phase 2 completes. A young tactical officer approaches with a tablet. The Prometheus assets are in position, General. Powell nods, taking the tablet and reviewing the information. Scattered across the galaxy, disguised as commercial vessels or space debris, humanity's true military assets wait for activation, not the token defensive forces sacrificed in the initial invasion, but ships built in secret, incorporating technologies the Council never imagined humans possessed. And our allies? She asks. The dissenting Council species have made contact. They're awaiting your signal. Not all alien species had supported the war declaration. Some had formed bonds with humans over decades of interaction, recognized the injustice of the Council's actions, or simply calculated that the Council's power had grown too absolute. These species now prepared to break ranks, but only when humanity showed its true hand. On the Council homeworld, in a detention center designed to hold representatives from fallen civilizations, Dr. Elaine Turner sits in her cell, apparently defeated. The guards monitoring her, 6-limbed arthropods, With natural armor plating, see only a human female who occasionally paces her enclosure or attempts to engage them in conversation. They don't notice the microscopic changes in the cells, environmental systems, changes that are gradually altering the quantum communication network that forms the backbone of council coordination. Each word Turner speaks carries embedded harmonics that interfere with specific frequencies. Each movement she makes generates patterns of static that accumulate in the system. In deep space, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant in an unremarkable system, a fleet of unmarked ships awaits orders. Sleek black vessels with no identifying markings or transponder signals. They represent humanity's true military capability. Technology developed in secret, tested in the hidden reaches of space. On the bridge of the flagship, Captain Ravi Mehta addresses his crew. Today we reveal humanity's true strength. His dark eyes sweep across the assembled officers. Not our weapons or technologies, but our foresight. On the main view screen, a tactical display shows their target, the Council's primary communication hub, a massive space station at the nexus of their faster-than-light communication network. A target chosen years before based on intelligence gathered by human operatives embedded throughout galactic society. Begin acceleration, Meta orders. Stealth systems at maximum. The fleet accelerates toward its destination, invisible to Council sensors. Behind them, similar fleets emerge from hiding throughout human and Council space. Phase 2 has begun. As Council forces celebrate their apparent victory over humanity's formal military, securing empty bases and obsolete technology. Arch-Sovereign Vex receives increasingly troubling reports. Communication outages spread across Council space. Navigation data becomes corrupted, sending military vessels to incorrect coordinates. Strange anomalies appear across their command network. In his crystalline chamber, surrounded by his most trusted advisors, Vex finally begins to understand the true nature of the conflict. Something is wrong. He realizes too late. The humans aren't fighting the war we expected. The advisor composed of luminescent particles dims noticeably. We're receiving reports of human infiltrators throughout our infrastructure. They've been dormant for years, possibly decades. Now they're active. How many? Vex demands, unknown. But the pattern suggests thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. In her cell, Dr. Turner smiles faintly as the lights flicker momentarily. Phase 2 is complete. The Council's vaunted communication network now carries hidden signals, transmitting valuable intelligence to human forces. Their command systems are compromised at the fundamental level. The real counterattack is about to begin. On Earth, under Council occupation, apparent human collaborators coordinate with Council forces to establish control. Governor General Tzak of the Hegemony, appointed to oversee the occupation, accepts their assistance gratefully. He doesn't realize that every human working with his administration has been carefully selected, not for their willingness to betray their species, but for their ability to gather intelligence and sabotage from within. 3 weeks into the war, the Galactic Council's initial victory celebrations have given way to confusion and growing alarm. The Grand Chamber where the declaration was made now hosts emergency sessions almost continuously. Gone is the ceremonial decorum. In its place, urgent debates and increasingly frantic reports from the front lines. The Draith ambassador slams his luminescent appendage against the speaking platform, sending ripples of bioluminescence cascading along his massive gastropod body. His translator vocalizes his rage in tones that echo throughout the chamber. Our fleets are being routed through compromised jump points. 70 vessels lost in the Carina sector alone. The appendage strikes again. We were promised a swift victory over an inferior species. Instead, we face an enemy that seems to have anticipated our every move. Across the chamber, representatives from 1,000 worlds murmur in agreement. View screens display tactical data showing Council military assets across the galaxy blinking red, lost, compromised, or unaccounted for. What should have been a simple police action against an upstart species has transformed into something far more dangerous. Arch-Sovereign Vex can no longer maintain the illusion of control. His crystalline form pulses with irregular patterns of light, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Council space, once the most secure region in the galaxy, now experiences cascading system failures. Military vessels arrive at coordinates to find no enemies, only automated beacons broadcasting a simple message. You declared the war. We choose the battlefield. The humans must have had help, Vex insists, addressing the War Council in a private chamber adjacent to the main hall. No species at their development stage could penetrate our defenses so thoroughly without assistance. The intelligence chief, still maintaining his cohesion of luminescent particles despite the stress, responds carefully. We found no evidence of external alliance. What we have discovered is concerning in different ways. The data projections shift to show captured human communications. For decades, humanity has been studying us. Not just our technology or military capabilities, but our psychology, our decision-making patterns, our vulnerabilities. They've been playing a very long game. On the mining planet Rigel 7, a Council occupation force discovers why their communications have failed. For 3 days they've been cut off from command, operating in isolation. Their commander, a proud warrior from the hegemony species, had assumed it was temporary interference. Now, as the central communication array activates without their input, he realizes the truth. Colonel Lena Rodriguez, appearing via hologram in their command center, explains calmly. Her dark hair is pulled back tightly, her Earth Alliance uniform immaculate despite the ongoing war. Behind her stands a team of human technicians working calmly at their stations. For decades, humanity supplied the rare minerals used in your quantum communication arrays, she reveals. We included molecular triggers in every shipment, dormant until activated. Your entire network is now under our control. The hegemony commander snarls, baring razor-sharp teeth. You lie. Our systems would have detected such sabotage. Rodriguez smiles slightly. Your systems were designed by engineers who used technical manuals printed on paper manufactured on Earth. The inks contained nanoscale data packets that subtly influenced their design choices. They built the backdoors without ever realizing it. The implications hit the commander like a physical blow. The Council's greatest advantage, its unified command structure spanning thousands of worlds, has become its critical vulnerability. Who are you people? He whispers. Just the newest members of the galactic community, Rodriguez answers, though perhaps not in the way your council intended. Meanwhile, Admiral Fletcher, supposedly imprisoned, walks freely through a secret facility constructed beneath the Martian surface. Around him, analysts coordinate humanity's asymmetric response, monitoring council communications, redirecting their fleets, and deploying strategic assets with surgical precision. The table's protocol was centuries in the making, Fletcher explains to a newly arrived ally, Ambassador Krell of the Archon species, one of 17 council members who secretly opposed the declaration of war. Krell's translucent jellyfish-like body pulses with nervous energy as he absorbs the scope of human preparations. Since before we achieved spaceflight, Earth's nations practiced the art of insurgency, resistance, and unconventional warfare, Fletcher continues. Our history is filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through intelligence, preparation, and exploiting the enemy's assumptions. He gestures to displays showing council ships being systematically isolated and neutralized. We knew we could never match their numbers or technological head start, so we planned differently. Krell's translator converts his harmonic vibrations to English. You anticipated the council would eventually see you as a threat. We considered it inevitable, Fletcher confirms. From our first interactions, the council treated us as primitives to be managed rather than equals to be welcomed. We prepared accordingly. Across human space, the scattered resistance transforms into a coordinated counteroffensive. Hidden factories activate, producing advanced weapons designed specifically to exploit council vulnerabilities identified through decades of careful intelligence gathering. The Council's unified species begin to fragment as accusations of espionage and sabotage spread. Ancient rivalries resurface as trust collapses. Species that had been forced into the Council centuries ago see opportunity in the chaos. Others, fearing human retribution, begin secret negotiations. On Earth, now under Council occupation, Governor General Tsak of the hegemony receives unsettling news in his command center, established in what was once the United Nations headquarters. The human collaborative government they installed has secretly been directing resistance operations. Worse, 30% of his staff have been compromised, their neural implants subtly influenced by human-designed algorithms. How is this possible? Tsak demands, his armored exoskeleton clicking with agitation. These humans are centuries behind us technologically. His security chief, a veteran of a dozen council pacification campaigns, has no satisfying answer. They think differently. They don't approach problems as we would, and they've been studying us far longer than we realized. In deep space, humanity's true fleet emerges from hiding, not the defensive forces that were sacrificed in the initial invasion, but ships built in secret, incorporating technologies the Council never imagined humans possessed. The flagship, a sleek vessel designated Prometheus, leads the formation toward a key Council supply depot. On its bridge, Captain Meta stands before his crew, his dark features illuminated by the tactical displays. Today we demonstrate that humanity cannot be conquered through conventional means, he announces. The Council believed their superior numbers and technology guaranteed victory. They failed to understand that warfare evolves and that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. His communications officer reports, "All ships in position, Captain. Council defenses are unaware of our presence," Meta nods. "Broadcast on all Council frequencies." Across Council space, military and civilian communication systems are suddenly overridden. Captain Meta's voice transmits clearly, translated into the languages of all Council species. "Attention, Council forces. The first phase of this war is concluded. You have occupied empty worlds and captured obsolete technologies while we positioned our real assets. The actual war begins now." The transmission ends with a countdown, as Council analysts scramble to understand the meaning. Simultaneous strikes hit strategic targets across Council space. Targets that shouldn't have been known to humans, much less vulnerable. Supply depots explode. Command centers lose power. Fleet coordination systems crash. In his crystalline chamber, Arch-Sovereign Vex receives the most disturbing report yet from his intelligence chief. The supposedly primitive humans had developed not just technological countermeasures, but weapons that could target the psychic links binding the Council leadership together. A vulnerability they had believed impossible for any species to detect, let alone exploit. How? Vex demands, his crystalline structure vibrating with rage and fear. How could they have known? His advisor, trembling visibly now, displays the answer. Hundreds of Council species had been secretly sharing information with humans for years, some out of sympathy, others for profit, still others due to ancient grievances against the Council leadership. The Council's unity had been compromised long before the war began. "We've been infiltrated at every level," the intelligence chief admits. "And the worst part is, they knew exactly where to look, what to target. It's as if they've been studying us for centuries, not decades." In the Europa base, General Powell receives confirmation that Phase 3 has been successfully executed. Across the galaxy, Council military superiority has been neutralized by precision strikes and system-wide sabotage. The hunters have become the hunted. "Begin Phase 4, she orders. "Open negotiations with the 17 dissenting Council species. Offer them our terms for a new galactic arrangement." Her aide, a young officer who has never known a world without the looming threat of Council dominance, asks hesitantly, "Do you think they'll 6 months into a war that was supposed to last 6 days, the Galactic Council convenes an emergency session. The Grand Chamber, once a symbol of unchallenged authority, now reflects the fractured state of the coalition. Only half the representatives attend in person. Others join via secure channels. Secure because humans have allowed them to be. The Meridian ambassador, her scaled skin pale with stress, addresses the assembly. Once among the most loyal Council supporters, the Meridians have suffered devastating losses defending key strategic positions. "This war must end," she declares, her translator conveying the harmonics of desperation in her native speech. "The humans aren't fighting to destroy us, but to force negotiation. They've demonstrated this repeatedly by sparing civilian targets and offering ceasefires to species that stand down." From his elevated position, Arch-Sovereign Vex watches with growing alarm as more representatives signal agreement. His once brilliant crystalline form has dulled with exhaustion. Fracture lines visible where none existed before. "Capitulation is unacceptable," counters the hegemony representative, rising on powerful hind legs. His species, evolved from apex predators, refuses to accept defeat. "We must escalate, deploy the forbidden weapons. The humans have shown vulnerability to— They've shown vulnerability when they chose to," interrupts the Meridian. "Have none of you realized yet? They control this conflict. They decide where and when to engage, Even their apparent weaknesses are strategic. The chamber erupts in overlapping arguments. Vex observes with mounting dread as the once mighty alliance fractures along ancient lines. Species that had been forced into the council millennia ago now openly question its authority. Others, fearing human retribution, advocate immediate surrender. Meanwhile, humanity's counteroffensive has stalled deliberately short of total victory. Instead of pressing their advantage, human forces have established clear defensive boundaries and offered ceasefires to individual council species. On the neutral world of Proxima Centauri b, Dr. Elaine Turner meets with representatives from 17 council species who have broken ranks. The conference room, established in an ancient structure dating back to a civilization that predated even the council, hums with translation devices and security fields. The air is tense, filled with beings who were enemies months before. Turner stands at the head of the table, her diplomatic uniform bearing no military insignia. Behind her, a simple holographic display shows the current state of the conflict. Council space increasingly fragmented as more species declare neutrality. Humanity doesn't seek domination, Turner explains, her voice calm but authoritative. We want recognition, equality, and accountability for those who manipulated the council into this unnecessary war. She gestures, and the display changes to show evidence gathered over decades, proof that Arch-Sovereign Vex and a small cabal had engineered the conflict, fearing human potential would eventually challenge their multi-millennium rule. The council was founded as a cooperative body, Turner continues. Its original charter, which many of you have never seen, established principles of mutual respect and shared advancement. Over thousands of years, that vision was corrupted by those who came to view power as their birthright. The representatives exchange glances. For many, this confirms suspicions harbored for centuries but never proven. What do humans want exactly? Asks the Archon delegate, his translucent body pulsing with cautious interest. A reset, Turner answers simply. A return to founding principles. No species dominant over others. Transparent governance. Shared technological advancement, she pauses, and guarantees that war cannot be declared against a species simply for advancing too quickly or thinking too differently. In orbit above the Council homeworld, Admiral Fletcher's flagship holds position, not attacking but impossible to ignore. The vessel, officially named Prometheus but nicknamed Sword of Damocles by its crew, serves as a symbol of how completely the tables have turned. On the bridge, Fletcher studies tactical displays showing the increasingly fragmented council forces. Some continue to fight, others have withdrawn to protect their homeworlds. Many have simply stood down awaiting the outcome of diplomatic efforts. We could end this now, his tactical officer suggests. Their orbital defenses are compromised. One strike at their leadership. Fletcher shakes his head. That's not the victory we want. Destroying the council would only create a power vacuum and more conflict. He turns from the display. Humanity's goal was never conquest. It was correction. On Earth, now liberated from Council forces, General Powell briefs the United Earth government in what was once the Council's occupation headquarters. Representatives from Earth's nations and colonies attend both in person and via secure holographic links. Phase 4 is proceeding as planned, Powell reports, standing before a three-dimensional map of known space. 28 council species have agreed to our terms. 12 more are in negotiations, a representative from the Mars colonies interrupts. And the others? The war faction? They're discovering how deeply we've integrated into their systems, Powell answers, her expression grim but satisfied. Their options narrow by the hour. She gestures and the display zooms in on key council military installations. We've demonstrated our ability to neutralize their offensive capabilities without destroying them. It's a message they're finally beginning to understand. Inside the council's inner sanctum, Vex receives devastating news from his last loyal commander. The supposedly secret planet where the forbidden weapons are stored has been under human control for weeks. Specialized teams infiltrated the facility, disabled the weapons, and replaced the control systems with sophisticated duplicates that report normal status while being completely inoperable. Vex's last leverage is gone. How? He demands, not for the first time. How could primitives accomplish this? The commander, a veteran of countless conflicts, has no satisfying answer.
They fight differently. They targeted our assumptions, our protocols, our hierarchies.
They turned our strengths into weaknesses. More shocking still, evidence emerges that humans had representatives living peacefully among several council species for generations before official first contact. Their understanding of galactic politics isn't recent. It spans centuries. They were never the primitive newcomers we believed, his advisor explains, projecting images of humans genetically modified to blend with various species, operating decades before Earth officially joined the galactic community. They were patient, gathering intelligence, building alliances, preparing for either peaceful integration or this. The realization sinks in. The Council hadn't discovered humans. Humans had revealed themselves when they were ready. After decades of preparation, across Council space, carefully placed human operatives activate their final protocols. Not attacks, but revelations. Ordinary citizens of thousands of worlds learn the truth about the war, about the Council's manipulation, about the humans who had offered peace repeatedly before the conflict began. Information flows freely for the first time in millennia. Historical records suppressed for generations become available. Citizens learn how their species joined the Council, often through coercion rather than choice. The carefully maintained narrative of benevolent leadership crumbles under the weight of truth. The Council chambers, once the unquestioned center of galactic power, now face protests from within. Species that had been loyal for millennia now demand accountability. The facade of unity dissolves completely. In the neutral meeting space on Proxima Centauri B, negotiations proceed. Dr. Turner, now joined by diplomats from Earth and its colonies, presents the framework for a new galactic charter, one built on equality rather than dominance, transparency rather than secrecy, cooperation rather than control. This is the future humanity envisioned, she tells the assembled representatives. Not conquest, but partnership. The Meridian ambassador studies the proposed charter. How can we trust that humans won't simply replace the Council as the dominant power? You've proven your capabilities exceed what anyone imagined. Turner smiles slightly. Because we're building in safeguards that prevent any species, including humans, from gaining the kind of control the Council exercised. Power will be distributed, decisions transparent, advancement shared. As Phase 4 nears completion, Admiral Fletcher receives the message he's been waiting for. The Council leadership is divided beyond repair. The war faction has lost support. The path to the Council chamber, not as prisoners this time, but as architects of a new galactic order, is open. Begin final approach, he orders. Diplomatic protocols only. No weapons systems active. His executive officer nods. The Council has agreed to receive us? What's left of it has, Fletcher confirms. And those who refuse will find themselves increasingly isolated. The Prometheus descends toward the Council homeworld, escorted not by warships but by vessels representing the 28 species that have already joined the new alliance. A symbolic demonstration of the future humanity envisions. The central chamber of the Galactic Council, once the pinnacle of interstellar power, now serves as the venue for its transformation. The tiered seating that rises hundreds of meters toward the vaulted ceiling is filled with representatives from over 4,000 civilizations. Many attend in person, others via sophisticated holographic projections. The mood is a complex mixture of tension, hope, and lingering uncertainty. Admiral James Fletcher, no longer in military uniform but formal diplomatic attire, stands at the center of the chamber. The platform beneath his feet no longer displays threats or accusations, but the draft of a new charter, a document that will reshape galactic governance for millennia to come. The war is over, Fletcher announces, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. Not through annihilation, but through understanding. Humanity never sought to rule the galaxy, only to claim our place within it. Representatives murmur among themselves, translation systems working overtime to convey nuance across thousands of languages. Many species that had been enemies months before now sit in cautious proximity, united by a shared vision of a different future. The new galactic charter displays on enormous screens throughout the chamber, a document built on equality rather than dominance. Checks and balances replacing millennia of unchallenged authority. Key provisions highlight transparent decision-making, shared technological advancement, and protections for emerging civilizations. Dr. Elaine Turner stands beside Fletcher, having led the diplomatic team that negotiated the charter's details with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Behind them, delegates from Earth and its colonies observe with quiet pride humanity's first official recognition as equal partners in galactic civilization. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Fletcher continues, the principles that will guide us forward are not human principles but universal ones. Fairness, cooperation, mutual respect. The very foundations upon which the Council was originally built. Before ambition corrupted its purpose. Many of the older representatives shift uncomfortably at this reference to the Council's forgotten origins, but none voice objection. The evidence Turner's team uncovered from ancient archives has been made public, revealing how the once noble institution had transformed into a mechanism for control and suppression. The Meridian ambassador, now leading the moderate faction that embraces reform, rises to speak. We accept this new beginning. The war has taught us that strength lies not in domination but in adaptation. Humanity has shown us a different path forward. Her words cut off as emergency alerts flood the system. Displays throughout the chamber shift to warning indicators. From a hidden stronghold deep in the galactic core, Arch-Sovereign Vex has activated the Sundering, a doomsday technology designed to collapse the stable wormholes that connect galactic civilization. Vex's transmission echoes through the chamber, his once melodious voice now harsh with bitterness. If we cannot rule, he declares, his crystalline form fractured but still radiating malevolent energy, the galaxy will fracture into isolated regions, doomed to technological regression and eventual collapse. Let this be my final decree as sovereign. If the Council falls, civilization falls with it. Panic erupts among the representatives as reports confirm wormhole destabilization has begun across multiple sectors. Centuries of interstellar travel and communication will end within hours if the process continues. Species with worlds spread across multiple systems face permanent separation. Trade routes that sustain billions will collapse. In orbit above the Council world, Captain Ravi Mehta receives the alert aboard the Prometheus. The bridge crew stares in horror at displays showing wormhole instability spreading like cracks in glass across the galactic map. The Prometheus contingency? Mehta's science officer asks, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Mehta nods grimly. Contact Europa Command. Request immediate authorization. The science officer's fingers fly across her console. Sir, if we deploy the technology, the energy requirements will... I know the cost. Mehta interrupts quietly. Send the request. Dr. Turner rushes to Fletcher's side in the Council chamber, their planned celebration now transformed into crisis management. We prepared for this, she whispers urgently. But the cost? Fletcher's expression hardens as he receives confirmation from Earth Command. President Okonkwo's message is brief but clear. Authorized. Whatever it takes. He faces the assembly, now in chaos as representatives frantically contact their homeworlds. Representatives of the galaxy, he announces, his voice cutting through the panic. Humanity has one final hidden advantage to reveal. The chamber gradually quiets as Fletcher activates a secure channel to the Prometheus and other vessels in the human fleet. Captain Mehta, execute the Prometheus contingency. On his command, a fleet of previously unseen human vessels moves into position around strategic wormholes throughout the galaxy. They had been hidden in subspace pockets, a technology the Council believed impossible, waiting for this exact scenario. The ships deploy massive arrays, their hulls transforming to reveal technology unlike anything seen before. 300 years ago, Fletcher explains as the representatives watch in awe, Earth scientists theorized that wormholes weren't just passages through space, but fundamental structures that could be reinforced, not merely traversed. The human vessels generate fields that extend into the wormholes themselves, counteracting Vex's destabilization technology. The energy requirements are astronomical, causing some ships to glow white-hot as they channel power beyond their design specifications. We developed this technology not as a weapon, Fletcher continues, but as a safeguard. Because we understood something the Council never did, that true civilization isn't about control, but connection. On view screens throughout the chamber, representatives watch as human crews work to stabilize the wormhole network at tremendous cost. Some vessels overload completely, disappearing in blinding flashes. their crews sacrificing themselves to save trillions across the galaxy. Meanwhile, a small team led by General Diana Powell traces Vex's transmission to his hidden fortress in the galactic core. The facility, built within an artificial hollow asteroid, is protected by defense systems that would make direct military assault impossible. But Powell's team doesn't attempt a conventional attack. Instead, they deploy a specialized communication array that breaks through his defenses, not to destroy, but to reveal. The technology, developed from the same principles that allowed humans to infiltrate council systems, bypasses security by speaking directly to the fundamental information layer beneath. Inside his sanctum, surrounded by loyal followers from species that benefited most from the old order, Vex watches in disbelief as his security systems fail. But instead of human soldiers, his chambers fill with holographic displays, live feeds from thousands of worlds showing the real consequences of his actions. Not abstract policy or strategic calculations, but children of countless species who would suffer if civilization collapsed, families separated forever, worlds dependent on trade facing slow starvation, the true cost of his spite made viscerally, undeniably real. This is why you failed to understand us. Powell's transmission reaches him. Humans don't fight hardest for power or resources. We fight for connection, for future generations, for possibilities rather than certainties. That's what you never grasped about us. Throughout the galaxy, the combined effort succeeds against overwhelming odds. The wormhole network stabilizes. The sundering is reversed. Council and human technologies working together prove stronger than either alone. As reports of stabilization reach the council chamber, relief transforms into something deeper. Representatives who had viewed humans with suspicion or fear now see them differently, not as conquerors or rivals, but as guardians who sacrificed to preserve what could have been destroyed. In the council chamber, the galaxy witnesses humanity's final revelation. They weren't just preparing for war but for peace. The table's protocol wasn't merely a military contingency, but a comprehensive plan to reform a flawed galactic system. The war is truly over, Fletcher announces, as displays confirm that Vex's fortress has gone silent, its power signature fading. Whether the former sovereign chose surrender or a more permanent end remains unclear, but his threat has been neutralized. The new galactic compact is ratified not by coercion but by consensus. Species that had fought against humans days before now vote alongside them, united by shared experience and newfound respect. Humanity takes its place not as conquerors, but as architects of a more balanced order. One by one, representatives approach to add their signatures or genetic markers to the new charter. Ancient enemies stand side by side, agreeing to governance based on cooperation rather than dominance. The chamber, which had witnessed declarations of war throughout its long history, now hosts the birth of something unprecedented. As the ceremony concludes, Admiral Fletcher and Dr. Turner stand at the viewpoint overlooking the galaxy's spiral arms. Beyond the transparent walls of the council station, stars shine with renewed promise. They thought declaring war would be our end, Turner reflects, watching ships from 100 worlds move in new patterns, no longer segregated by council hierarchies but freely associating. Instead, it was O and foe,